of the weekly narrative. You found the correct spot. You did, and we're live on stereo and YouTube tonight. For those listening on the stereo, feel free to watch us on the YouTube and vice versa. If you want to participate in the voice chat in the question and answer portion of the stream, you can download the stereo application on your Mac or your iPhone or your Android device and follow at Weekly Narrative. That's how we're doing it. And as you can see from the title of the stream today, which is something I already forgot here, more blacks resisting arrest, should women be cops, and what is infrastructure? We've got some good questions to be asking, as we've seen in recent, oh man, there's already a lot of people in chat too. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? We got Mitch, Dave, Athenian, Stalking Horse, Steve, Synergy, Dari, and Osis.
Hi, everybody. And then there's me.
Let me just double check the stream here before we go deep into this, because we did start out with a little bit of a technical difficulty. Let's see here. Okay. Pulling up the restream. Okay, everyone gets to see my restream. That's good. Perfect. So I think we are good now. I have so many windows I'm working with here. You guys don't understand how much it takes to run a stream by yourself. That's why people have producers, okay? See, I'm a host and a producer in one. That's what you call a renaissance man. You know how hard that is to do, to pull off successfully? I managed to do it, okay? Very few people can actually do that.
Hell yeah. You're the best, Jeremy. That's why we love you.
Anyway, let's get into the first topic of the night. Delaney, did you see the most recent police shooting?
I did.
Dante Wright.
It was Dante Wright or whatever his name is. Yeah, I saw that, and I saw everybody on social media freaking out because supposedly he was shot and killed for having a air freshener in his rearview mirror. That's what the narrative is, to get people ginned up and get them to go burn down their cities once again. Riot season has started early, folks.
Well, so for those who may not be aware, in the same city that George Floyd was shot in, a young man was pulled over, and he resisted arrest, and then he decided to flee from the police as he was being handcuffed. There was a female cop, and this is what all the stories leave out. They don't want you to know about this. The female cop, Ash, if you've seen the video, this is all very present in the video. She yells, "Taser, taser, taser, I'm going to tase you." But she has her gun in her hand. Okay? So it's very clear.
Not very smart.
Very clear case of an accidental shooting. There's no racism involved. It's really, literally just stupidity on both ends. Stupid on the guy's end for resisting. Stupid on the woman's end for just... I mean, how do you not know the difference between a firearm and a taser? The taser is bright yellow, and it probably weighs half as much as the gun does.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. And also, too, I'm not a police officer, but from what I understand, police officers usually put their firearm on their dominant hand, the side of their dominant hand, and so you can tell the difference. Like, taser's on, since I'm right-handed, taser would be on the left, handgun would be on the right. But and also the taser's like super, super light in comparison to the handgun. It's really like, it is her stupidity, honestly.
And that's exactly why we have the question in the chat. There's two big questions here that we want to talk about tonight. The first one is, why do blacks resist arrest so much? And the second one, because it deserves to be asked, and nobody else is going to ask it. That's what we do here at the Weekly Narrative. We talk about the stuff nobody else wants to talk about, okay? And we do it in style. And that question is, should women be cops? Because as a science-based channel, which we are, we love science. I love science. Delaney, you love science. We all love science. We know.
Appreciate it, yeah.
We know that women have less spatial reasoning abilities than men. We know that women are more neurotic than men. Neurotic, meaning they're more... They experience negative emotions stronger than men do, which is the likely explanation for her shooting the gun and not realizing it was a taser. I think we can all agree that that's a very general, easy way to explain what we saw. She panicked beyond anything that she's ever experienced before. And, is it a coincidence that she's a woman? Is it a coincidence that women have a lesser capacity to handle stressful situations like that? They don't have the spatial reasoning to know that maybe they grab the left versus the right, the gun versus the taser, and to not notice that weight difference in the hand. That's the kind of stuff that we get to talk about here on the Weekly Narrative. What do you think, Delaney? Since you are the woman, I'll go ahead and let you answer that question. What do you think about women being cops?
I think so. I don't think that women should be like out on the street doing patrol duty. I think women are totally necessary as like, detectives in the police force and stuff like that, and investigators and, those kinds of positions. But as far as like out on the streets patrolling and having to deal with the criminals out there, I just personally don't want to see women get harmed on the job. So I'm not saying like get rid of all the women in the police force, because I think that that's a stupid idea, because we need women. But as far as like having women out patrolling in the cars and, on the streets, I think that we should definitely either train them better or figure out a better way to just not put them in danger so much.
Synergy in the YouTube chat says, and demonetized. Yes.
Right.
I'm not here for the money. I'm here for the good conversation. And you are absolutely correct. I'm sure we're demonetized already just from having that title. But a lot of people chiming in the YouTube chat with great comments here. Let's see. We got All Minus One. What's up, Bill? Welcome to the chat. He says she needs to be charged with manslaughter. She should have known better. Yes. And when one of the things that you're taught in gun training is that you're responsible for whatever happens with your gun. It's your fault. It's your responsibility. You are going to be held accountable for that. In this case, she should be held accountable, and this should be manslaughter. And this is the funny thing about this case, is that when you make the argument that this man should not have resisted arrest, what does everybody say? Well, I did this on Twitter, and I ended up getting banned, actually. I'll go over that in a little bit. I dropped some bait on a CNN post about this story. But when you suggest that he shouldn't have resisted arrest, everyone says, well, that's not a reason to kill him. That's not a death warrant. That doesn't mean that he deserves to die. That's what everybody says. But that's not what we're saying here. We're basically the argument that I'll be making tonight throughout these discussions, and I heard a couple comments come in stereo, is that this was stupidity on both sides, but it was an option on the side of the man to open himself up to the possibility of the stupidity from the cop by choosing to resist arrest. If he chose to comply, he wouldn't have opened himself up to the possibility that this woman would have made this mistake, therefore ending his life. So two-sided stupidity. That's kind of the moral of the story that I'll be portraying tonight. They've got a guy in YouTube chat saying, waiting for the link. You have to go to Stereo. Download the Stereo app and follow @Weekly Narrative. I can't give you a link because it's not a computer application. It's only on the phones. So let's jump over to the Stereo comments. I heard a few come in here. We got our UK correspondent, Moneypenny.
Hey guys, I like the hello beautiful for the UK correspondent at such an early stage. I find that quite forward. But at last you're here. You can't be late for the first date. Looking forward to it, guys. Give it a good one.
Thank you, man. That is our UK correspondent, Moneypenny. We got a comment here from Init.
Yeah, you're right, boys. Finally, someone's talking about. Yeah, what is that all about? Why do black men always are much more likely to resist arrest? I mean, shouldn't we be teaching people not to just comply with law enforcement officers? I mean, if you resist arrest, especially somewhere like America, where you have a very sensitive gun culture, and police are carrying guns, 9 times out of 10 it's going to end, or it's very plausible that it's going to end very badly.
Guys, let me know how the audio is on those voice chats coming in, because I can make an adjustment. On my end, it sounds okay, but I just want to make sure you guys can hear that well. And sir, I would say that's a great point, and that's exactly why we have to talk about this. Because the narrative is that it's all about the cops. The person, the individual in the interaction, it's a two-person interaction, right? You have the cop and then the suspect. Everybody on the left, all the black people who see this and they cry, outrage, they want to portray this as a single variable problem where the cop is the only person involved and the cop is the only one who has any control over the outcome of the situation. That is not the case. We, and as you rightly pointed out, should be educating these people to not hate cops, which largely they are. They're taught to hate cops, and they're taught that cops are going to hunt them down in the streets which of course the statistics do not reflect. But we want to educate them and say, look, you have half of the power in the interaction. You can determine the outcome by your actions. And when you choose to resist arrest, you're choosing to have pretty much the worst possible outcome possible. But see, the problem with that is, and we talked about this last week too, you can't do anything to make sure that people know, or black people know they actually have power. Everything the left does is dependent on removing power from the blacks, which is why they would never tell you that the black people actually do have power in those situations.
Yeah, they want to keep them scared, keep them on edge. And when a person is scared and they're not thinking clearly, that's when mistakes like this happens on both ends. Because, the kid was scared of going to jail because he did have, I think I read that he had arrest warrants pending for him. So he, like, as soon as he heard them say that he has warrants, he immediately tried to get back in the car. And then as soon as he gets back in the car, the cops get heightened because they're thinking he's trying to get back in the car because he has a weapon or something to harm them. So again, it's just they want them to be afraid and like lose control on both sides, and that's the biggest problem on both ends. Is both people on in police encounters get scared, the cops and the perps that are involved, and it's just a terrible thing to try to reconcile. Like, hey, how do we reconcile? Just trying to get both people to kind of relax a little bit, but this day and age that we're in, people don't want to relax about this. They just want to be angry.
That's what sells the stories, right? That's what gets the clicks. That's what gets the ad revenue, is selling the... And as you pointed out when we started talking about this, they started this whole story as he got pulled over because of a air freshener. Obviously, a lie. We all know that's a lie. No, nobody gets pulled over. Even I admit the cops pulled people over for stupid reasons, but he didn't get shot over an air freshener. And the other interesting thing I've noticed about this is that when I talk to people about this on Twitter or wherever it may be, mostly on Twitter, they didn't even watch the video. It's almost as if the video got buried despite the fact that it was released immediately. And you notice the irony there? Because every time a shooting happens, who's the first one to come out and be like, release the footage! Give me the footage immediately! We must see the footage now! Body cam, body cam, body cam, body cam. Black Lives Matter. And all the people on the left, right?
Yeah.
Because they want to see what happens. But we're awfully quiet about the body cam footage all of a sudden because, well, maybe because it shows, number one, a blatant resisting of arrest. Number two, the cop was a woman, which I think plays a big part in the fact that this story is not going to be as big as it normally would be. If it was a guy that shot him, I think Minneapolis would have already burned down entirely by now. But the fact that it's a woman, I think the news outlets, and you guys can back me up in this if you think I'm BSing, I think they're holding a little bit off because it was a woman that shot him. Yeah, people aren't seeing the video. Nobody, and of course CNN's not sharing it or anything. They're sharing, maybe a little clip or something like that, but or a screenshot. They love doing that. They love giving you a screenshot and not showing you the full video, or even giving you a link to the full video so you can see the full thing yourself. Covington kids, and of course we get a predictable outcome.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. Like I said, the initial narrative that I saw that people were posting about on social media was that it was the air freshener, and then you dive deep into it and it's like, oh no, he was actually pulled over initially for expired registration. It's like, okay, so if you don't want to have an encounter with the police, then you need to have your registration and all your ducks in a row. That'll minimize the interaction you're going to have with police. And as soon as they got him out of the car and they like ran his information, it was like, oh, he has warrants. And then he just freaked the hell out and tried to get back in the car. It's like, dude, it's like the worst thing you could possibly do.
Steve in the YouTube chat says, it's okay. The NFL will put his name on their helmets. That's right. And it will all be okay from there. Let's go back to the stereo comments here. We got 5 or 6 of them piled up.
Hi, fascinating topic already. UK correspondent Moneypenny here. And sadly having to disagree with the degenerate lesbian. I know quite a bit about the way that women are used in the police force in the UK, and generally it's actually clever if it's used properly and tactically, because there are very few men that would hit a woman. There are very few men arguing in bars that are drunk or taking drugs or whatever that won't stop their mate hitting a woman. So they generally will send a WPC, a woman police constable, into bars, into riotous situations, into bad situations, because no matter how bad it is, men are unlikely to hit or attack a female police officer.
That's a great point. I never thought of it from that angle.
That is a great point. I mean, I'm just coming from this, like, I'm not saying, like, I don't want women involved in the police force at all. I just think, I don't know. I just don't.
Maybe they shouldn't default, like, respond to every incident.
Yeah, like, shouldn't respond to every single incident. Like, I agree that women definitely have their place in the police force. I want them there because we need that representation, and say for, like, you know, other women who've been assaulted and they don't want to talk to a male police officer because they were assaulted by a male. I think having females are definitely necessary, but it calls it, like Jeremy and I are over here just calling into question, like, some of, like, the women that are on the police force, like this lady that shot this guy and thinking it was her taser. Pretty sure a dude could have done it, but it's going to be more likely that a woman's going to make a stupid mistake like that. And also, too, if a man's trying to stab me with a freaking knife as a female police officer, I'm not going to be, and he's, like, high on PCP or drugs or whatever. What am I going to be able to do physically against that? It's just, yeah.
Oh, that's a great point, actually. There was a video of a woman cop, and we showed it on the stream a few weeks back, that she was responding to a guy with a knife. He charged her. She tried to shoot him, and she could not shoot him before he reached her with the knife. And then you hear her screaming on the video, and she did end up getting stabbed. So yet another instance. Synergy in the YouTube chat summarizes this issue that we're seeing perfectly. He says, one narrative and one agenda are conflicting. Women are perfect and good, men are bad and toxic, and the ridiculously soft prison sentences of women and black killing female cop. Yeah, no, this is a kind of it's a paradox, which is exactly why I think that it's not going to get as much media coverage as it will. Let's jump back to, we got Alex on the stereo.
The reason he had the warrant, though, was because the court made a mistake by sending the Zoom link to the wrong person.
Does he have two dead smoke alarms in the background? Well, see, I think the whole warrant thing is irrelevant, in my opinion. It doesn't even matter. That's just my opinion. I don't know, Delaney, do you have a different opinion on that?
I mean, it depends on what the warrant is for, but if it's like an incorrect warrant, then yeah, I guess that it's an unfortunate, like, it's a, just a clerical error or just an error on the department's front, but it's still, like, if you got a warrant out for an arrest, then that's not a good thing.
Well, the proper response to an incorrect warrant is not to flee the cops. The proper response is to fight it in court. Again, so even if you were to use that as a justification for him running, which would be an awful decision in my case, in my opinion, that's still not the proper response. So that's why I say the warrant thing is, the whole conversation around the warrants is pointless, because even if it were the case that it was wrongly applied, whatever, fleeing the police is still not the proper response. Let's go to Anit.
I was going to say.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I totally agree. I think the answer is to start teaching people, especially from communities that traditionally resent the police, and that's not just the black community, there are other communities as well, to start respecting and complying with the police. But how do we do that? Where does that come from? I mean, I personally think all this hysteria has come from mainstream media, because they know it will strike and they'll be able to make some money from it. So how do we fix it? How do we go about it? Because I'm just not sure how we do it in this age of social media, and how fake news can be spread so easily, like a wildfire. So I would love to hear some suggestions on how we could fix it.
I need to take a break real quick, Jeremy. I'll be right back, okay?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay.
So if I had all the power and the money, the resources to enact some changes, what would I do to try and solve this problem? I would make it... Do you remember DARE in school? You don't sound like you're from America, but in America we had a program in schools called DARE, which was where people come to your school and talk to you about drugs. I think we need to have actual education in elementary, not even in college, I'm talking about when you're still young, you need to be taught about the legal system. That should be core criteria for K through 12 education, is everything about, in a general aspect, because obviously you can't tell like a eighth grader really complex things about the legal system, but they should know some things. They should know how to interact with police. And this is actually just a backup plan. This is if I was the government enacting power upon people, if I had the money and resources to do what I wanted. Where it should really come from is the parents, the families, the communities themselves. What happens is, one bad police interaction happens in a community, and then you get this narrative that spreads like wildfire within the community that, oh, the cops hate black people, or they hate this group, or whatever it is, the cops this, cops that, cops are evil, kill all cops. And that kind of spreads like wildfire. That's where this came from in the first place. And of course, that's all built off the backs of the racism claims where, slavery and all that good stuff, Jim Crow, segregation. So, it's if you were to tackle it from a government perspective, put something in the educational criteria that covers not only just how to deal with police, but how to handle the legal system in general. How do you sue someone in civil court? How do you, just include it as a little part of the criteria that you talk about in school. Let's jump to Dean's got 3 comments lined up.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah, great topic. First time here. Definitely got to talk about this. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where you're getting the data from personally. I guess I have to speak for myself, obviously. But since I was a teenager, man, I mean, at the mall and everywhere, I mean, even though I was never with a gang, you know what I'm saying? We were like pretty much rock students when it came to our grades and in sports. Everybody knew that. But it didn't really matter. Constantly getting pulled over, constantly getting harassed at the mall while I'm walking. Okay? Oh, well, yeah, you fit the description. You have no idea how many times I heard that. Now, does that make you want to hate a cop? As a human being, forget about the color for a second. Just as a human being, what do you think someone would be okay with that? Just obvious. Wow, this is the 6th time in 3 months. Okay. It sounds like a trend.
Well, see, this is exactly why I think it's important to educate people on how to interact with cops. We can all admit that there is going to be some bias in how cops handle certain racial interactions. But the choice to escalate those interactions is largely in your own hands. And solving that bias or solving whatever it is that they have, and that makes them pull you over 6 times in 3 months, that's a whole separate issue. And that's not an exclusive thing to any minority. I've been pulled over by cops for no reason. I've had my car searched for no reason. I've had them lie, like make up things about me to get into my car. I hate cops as much as everybody. I'm a libertarian, okay? I think all cops are criminals, but I don't hate them. I just want to maximize the efficiency of my interaction with them, and we do that through education, through learning as much as we can about how to do that, instead of saying, well, everything that happens to me is based on externalities. I'm going to blame everything on the cop. I have no power in the interaction, which is false. What's up, John Daniel from Sacramento, he says. Welcome back, Delaney.
Yep, I'm back.
Let's see, okay. All right, let's go. Comments are piling in. We have Dean commenting about how he gets harassed by cops for being black and fitting the description and whatnot. He's got another follow-up comment here.
That's the biggest problem. It depends really where you live. This majority of the time does happen also in big cities.
Yes.
And I've moved a couple of times in my lifetime. And I've faced it through driving. Hell, I even faced it at a basketball court, for God's sakes. You know what I'm saying? So this does happen more often. Now, do I hate cops? No, because I hope one day a cop could actually, save my ass or save a family member. I don't know where statistics or what data or what survey you got that you actually think all black people hate cops. I mean, that's just probably one of the most absurd things I've ever heard. But I don't know. I guess that's a different story. But it happens too much. It just happens too much. And you can go back a long time. I mean, there are so many things that happened in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that are still being, conflicted with the new cops in today's world.
So I would have to ask, what do you mean by it happens too much? What are you referring to specifically there? Give me, because I haven't mentioned anything. Are you talking about just cops shooting black people? Is that what we're talking about there? Or cops, disproportionately pulling over or arresting black people? Give me some clarification on that, Dean, and then we can talk a little bit more about that. Synergy with the $30 super chat. Crazy. Jeez. Out of nowhere. Thank you, Synergy. Nothing to say. Says, just love what you two do. Enjoy the $21. Enjoy $9. Susan Wojcicki. Yes. 30% of your super chats go to YouTube, but we definitely appreciate that show of support. We don't do it for the money, but we love to give you guys the value. Hope you get some value out of the conversations we're having here. Let's jump to Sive. I want to give Dean a chance to respond to that, so I'm going to skip to one of his later comments.
So there are several things going on. As a black person, I would suggest to you that trying to speak for the thought pattern of a black person is not truly understanding. That's pushing a narrative. So I'll agree with you here. All people need to understand the legality of every situation that they're dealing with, even if they're walking down the street. The disingenuous thing that the gentleman is trying to push in his narrative is that the person who works for the city, the taxpayer, has less to little of no responsibility in how they conduct their professionalism, as opposed to the unknowing operator of a vehicle or a person walking down the street. So when black people talk about arrest, I'll speak about that one in the next voicemail.
Well, I'm simply pointing out the fact that if black people understand that the cops are largely going to be bad interactions with them, why wouldn't you take extra care to make sure that those interactions go smoothly? If I'm black, which I did identify as black previously, I would go into every police interaction thinking to myself, how can I make this cop as steady, as smooth as possible, and it's as calm as possible. I don't want him to think I'm doing anything. I'll comply with everything he's going to say. Why would you think that you could get away with resisting arrest? And I'm not saying, again, that the result of that is always going to be shooting. Probably in the vast majority of cases, that's not the case. But if you think that every interaction with cops is going to be bad, why wouldn't you take the extra step to try to make sure they turn out well and act on your best behavior?
Yeah, I would agree with that, Jeremy. I mean, if you don't want to have interactions with the police, then, or if you don't want to have a bad interaction, then yeah, you should be polite, give them the information if, they have a reason to ask for it. Make sure your registration and insurance are up to date on your vehicle. If you get pulled over for busted taillight, just take the fix-it ticket and fix your car and, take care of your business. I mean, I guess because I'm not black, I can't speak for black people, but it's just kind of a universal thing for, all people to just keep their heads cool and collected, and don't always assume that it's because of race that, the cop is pulling you over and, doing their job.
Well, that's the thing about this particular shooting, is that everyone wants to attribute it to racism, and that shows not only, it's bad faith, really. It's malicious because they want to make an enemy where there is not one. Athenian kind of summarizes it very well in the YouTube chats. He says, I think ultimately it needs to be a two-way street. That female cop was certainly dumb, but so was the guy. Sounds like we need just less stupid people in society. And that's correct. It's a two-variable problem, and everyone who's crying about the racial injustice sees it as a one-variable problem, which is the cop. That's not the case. It's not reality.
And and I'm in the camp of that police officer shouldn't just walk away and not face any kind of no kind of justice. I'm not saying that. I just think crucifying her and sending her to prison for the rest of her life for murder is a bit of a stretch.
Well, she'll get manslaughter, but she won't go away for the rest of her life, and that's the I think that's the applicable punishment for this. So let's go to David Spencer.
So, gentlemen, I feel that these young people are being fed a false narrative, and then when they follow those directions and it ends badly, the people who gave the suggestion in the first place never come back and say, "Oh, my bad, I'm sorry." They just make another fucking suggestion. So, you really need to stop listening to those cockholes. And I mean that. Really, seriously. They're killing people with their stupid ideas
I think
while
they
they
are.
live safe in their white neighborhood.
We don't
Do you
want to talk about
understand
that.
me? Obama, Oprah, leader of BLM, all right? They give all these young people in the hood terrible advice, and then they go back home to the white neighborhoods.
Wow.
Am I telling you the truth, or am I lying to your fucking ass? Question mark at the end.
Oh man, that was incredible. Yeah, no, that's a great point. Is that the people on the top who are making all the money, guys like Don Lemon, over on CNN, right? He'll tell you that there's an epidemic of police violence and racism, but he won't spend a single minute of his entire program that he's on hours every night to tell his viewers or to tell the black community, hey, this is how you should interact with police if you ever get pulled over. It takes 5 minutes. He has like an hour long. Just take 5 minutes. Tell them how to actually interact with the police. That reduces their chances of getting killed, and not feeding them narratives that will actually increase their chances of getting killed or harmed by the police.
I mean, if he actually did that, then, things would probably get a little bit better. But again, it's not up to, Don Lemon and, all these, Sean King and all these black leaders to give advice on all of this. It's up to the parents. Honestly, the parents at home have the more power over their children to help them have good encounters with the police. But instead, the parents are teaching their children to be fearful of the police and run from them and treat them like crap.
And
that's why we're in the mess.
Therein lies the source of the problem, I think. And we got a lot of people in YouTube chat chiming in on this exact topic. It's about the parenting. Where are the fathers? I'd like to hear from some of the black viewers if they had a father that told them how to interact with police, or what their father told them about police. I'd like to hear the perspectives, because I am here to listen. I'm here to have a discussion. I'm not here to tell anyone how they think or what they're thinking. We got somebody, I don't even know how to pronounce his name.
Why do black resist arrest? Why is your title making the assumption like only black people are resisting arrest? I'm just asking that because I'm just asking.
Well, thank you for asking. The reason why, go ahead, Delaney.
I was going to say, does the title say only black people resist arrest? No, we're not saying only.
Yeah, no, the reason we're talking about that is because that's what's in the news right now. This is a news channel where we do commentary on the news, and every story we see about black shootings, black police deaths, we try to examine them at every possible perspective. And the one thing that we keep seeing over and over and over again in these cases is the fact that these black people resist arrest. So we're asking the question, why is that? And we're trying to get to the root cause of that issue. Let's see. The conversation has been beaten to death. It promotes a victimhood mentality of how to act around cops, says Dari.
Agreed.
All right, let's jump to, we got like 5, 6 of them from the CV guy.
No, that is not where it came from. Once again, you're pushing that narrative. That is not where it all came from. Where it actually came from was the inconsistency in how black people saw laws being pushed out or serviced upon the people. They saw people who looked more like the officers get more of a pass on things. And that's over the couple of decades, or 4 decades actually, is where it started to get bad. Not to mention the Bill Clinton expansion of jails. So once again, you're speaking as if you're a black person understanding, and you really need to listen more.
So my question to that response is, do you think the average black man, lower middle class, whatever it may be, is aware of all of the variables happening around the socioeconomic, political happenings of laws and how they're applied? Or do they just absorb what they see and what they hear from their immediate community and family? Which is more likely? That's the question I would ask to that.
It's a good question. But, because we're not black, we can't speak on it.
Let's jump down a couple here.
When he says it's happening too much, sir, he's talking about percentages mathematically. You, sir, we had 2 Russian spies here in America. Russian spies, and there was a bunch of talk about there were possible Russian spies, one in the Democrat Party and one in the Republican Party. And guess what? Many people, because they were white, omitted the fact that they were spies for a very long time. And even one Republican went to try to get his girlfriend, who's a spy, out of trouble because he felt that connection with her. I bring that up so that you don't say, I don't know what that means. I bring that up because if you are a person doing something against America and you look a certain way, i.e. white, you get the protection of complexion. But if you're a black person, you get sought out like the honor student who was just telling you he was sought out.
So I think there's a little bit of merit to that argument. However, it's more of a inequality in treatment based on your power and your resources. A poor white guy is going to get trashed just like a poor black man would. But if a rich black man, say like Obama, who, drones innocent people in the Middle East and murders Americans or whatever it is, he gets away with it. But he's black. So because it's a power imbalance, it's not a racial thing. But of course, I think I could see why you would say that, because the first thing you notice about somebody is their race. You don't know the size of their bank account. You don't know their connections. You don't know their how implanted they are into the system that they're operating within. And somebody in chat brings up Eric Swalwell. We were more than happy to point out that white guy who was having a relationship with a Chinese spy. We threw him under the bus as quick as we possibly could. So there's a good example of that standard not really applying. Any comments, Delaney?
Yeah, I've always been in the camp of, if you can afford a decent lawyer and decent representation, that goes a lot farther in our justice system than your skin color.
Definitely.
That's really what it boils down to. You can be, rich black dude and have a good lawyer and get off on a lot of crimes if you have decent representation and know the system.
We got another great comment in YouTube chat. Synergy says the Capitol Hill insurrectionists are certainly being treated like garbage and suffering soft torture in jail right now, and they are, as far as I'm aware, all white. It's not like they just got released and got a pat on the back. They're basically getting tortured in jail right now. So again, that standard doesn't seem to apply, but again, you can kind of really be, if you want to be really selective about it, then I could see why you might hallucinate a trend.
So here's the other thing. You said you would try to make everything as smooth as possible. I think what you don't realize is some officers, arrest is not the same as a conviction. But we as a nation, we judge crime based on arrests. We don't judge crime based on convictions. That's because of the creation of broken windows. If you don't know about that, look into the reasons why they judge crime based on arrests, not on convictions. But nevertheless, and you can look at the Department of Justice for that. But nevertheless, you're going to say how you can make these things go smoothly. So if you know that things are happening based on arrest, and that an arrest can just be, hey, you spent 3 days in jail, but we're going to let you go. But while you spent 3 days in jail and you have nothing on your record, we just let you go. We made $125 a day from the state in taxes and so on. You got to know this politics.
Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely understand that, but we have to enter stage right the concept of risk management. Let's say if I think there's a 100% chance of me dying to a cop if I resist, or a high percentage chance, or a very unlikely chance that I'm going to be thrown in jail for having a air freshener on my mirror, which wasn't the case. That he probably would have just gotten a citation in most cases and then let go. And I think it's actually quite rare that these people actually get arrested unless they're on like their third or fourth charge, something like that. Or in this case, there were warrants. That would be a case where you would probably get arrested. But in most cases, if you need to reevaluate your risk management protocols, if you think it's a better decision to run than to, in your extreme case, potentially go to jail for 3 days. And all that other stuff, the secondary stuff about them making $120 a day or something like that, that's all kind of secondary to the issue at hand.
Right. And also, I've been a advocate of just, hey, when you're trying to encounter police on the street and you try to fight them on the street, you're going to lose. You're in a losing battle. If there's some kind of something going on with your encounter with the police, take your citation and then see them in court, because that's where you're really going to fight them and get the actual, you're actually going to get some kind of something like done. But if you try to fight them in the street, guess what? It's going to be a losing battle, and they're going to be the ones. They're going to be the ones that get off on doing harm to you.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. Let's make this really easy and really simple. I'll make it really simple for, what's his name, Sive, to convince me. Just give me one situation where it would be acceptable to risk the harm that would come from fleeing the scene or resisting arrest. Because, the potentiality of 3 days in jail, that's definitely not going to balance out the decision-making process to run from the cops. So tell me how to justify, instead of giving me all these hypotheticals and whatnot, just give me one situation where you think it would make sense for the suspect to flee or resist as opposed to cooperating with the police, and then we can go from there. We got I think this is Osis.
Actually, Don Lemon did make a little diatribe about that. He said black people should pull up their pants.
Oh yes, that's right.
Respect where you live, finish school, and have fathers in the family. This was in 2013, and he was called a coon for it. Kind of funny.
That's right. He did it 8 years ago when he didn't have that position of the race baiter extraordinaire on CNN. Thank you for that. Reminding me of that, Osis. David Spencer, this is I think this is the New Yorker guy. Let's see.
She asked a question about black people resisting arrest. I want you to go and check out the comments of Chelsea Handler. Chelsea said, "You are more likely to die at the hands of police than at any other way." And number one, that's a lie. But number two, again, she's feeding that false narrative, and that scares the living shit out of the young people.
Yes.
That would scare the shit out of me. And this is what, listen, I'm going to hit you with some reality here. They try to kill as many of those black babies before they're ever born, and then the ones that get away, they get them later by scaring the shit out of them, and then they do something stupid, and then they lose their lives some other way. These are very wicked people, my friend. Very, very wicked people. I mean, if you honestly looked at them, you would see the fucking horns coming up off their...
I know you probably want to touch on
going that far.
You want to hit on the abortion comment, Delaney, but I want to say real quick first that that's a great point, that they're trying to pump the fear at a very disproportionate level. So if you want to talk about disproportionality in policing or whatever it is, the biggest disproportionality that we all have to point to and acknowledge is the disproportionality in how this stuff is covered in the media. I think there was a recent, not a study, but like a survey where they went around and they asked people how many police shootings they think happen every year against black people. And people were saying things like 1,000, like hundreds.
Yeah.
In reality, unarmed black people, I think 9 of them got shot last year in 2020. 9. People think there's 1,000. Why? Why do people think there's 1,000? Because of the media, because of their social media feeds, because of their silos, because of their communities, because of their families who are feeding them lies. So, yeah, that is definitely a very big problem.
Yeah, they want to pump the fear and keep the fear alive, man. Because when people are afraid, they make pump that fear. Not pump, pump the guns, but pump the fear, to keep them scared, keep them on edge, and keep them emotional, so that way they make stupid decisions, and then the media can profit off of their dumbass decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talk about this all the time. We talk about the fact that at a large level, the media exists to keep you in a state of anxiety, to keep you in a state of mental illness, to keep you moldable and, tacitly, where you are basically being controlled to the extent to where you see a cop and you react how the media tells you how to react. You don't react based on reality. You don't react based on risk management protocols. You just react based on what you've heard on your Twitter feed, what you've seen on CNN, what Don Lemon told you, not in 2013, but in 2020, which his tune shirt has changed for sure there. Let's jump back to... Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, he definitely flipped the script a lot. I mean, he went from saying, like, speaking in practicality and going like, hey, instead of looking like a hoodlum and, just living a life of degeneracy, like, pull up your pants, be respectful, take care of your family. And that's pretty good advice. That's something that I think President Obama even said too. So why are they calling him a coon for just speaking facts and speaking on what he's observing as a black man who's a part of the black community?
I got fact-checked by the YouTube chat. Thank you, guys. That's why you are here. Steve Husted says there were 13 killed last year by police, not 9. So I was off by 4, and somebody else said I would not do well on The Price is Right. Well, that wouldn't be too bad because I didn't go over, so at least I'd still be in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Always got to, start low. Okay, we got Just Asia with a comment.
Why do black people, can we put people in there because it ain't black what? First, we gotta realize that. Then we could probably get somewhere. Because why do black? What is black? Please put people. It'll make the discussion a little clearer for you too.
I think we know what I'm referring to. I had a typo in there.
Yeah.
I should have said blacks, but the reason I didn't put people is because the titles in stereo do not let you put very many. But I think we can really quickly and easily get past that little hurdle and get on to an actual discussion. Let's see.
She's the chick on Instagram and on social media that will send you corrections in your grammar. And, yeah. Instead of having an actual discussion.
We got our New York correspondent here.
Okay, about the spies, all right? Would you bring up the name of the Republican? Because I can tell you the one was a driver for Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat, and the one who was having sex with the Chinese spy was also a Democrat, Eric Swalwell. So now why don't you come up with the name of that Republican that you say? Because I've given you names here. What's the name? I bet you ain't got it because it don't exist.
Oh, man. Shots fired. Thank you, David, for that comment. Let's see.
That was awesome.
Back to Just Asia, hopefully with a real question.
Yeah, I think what y'all saying, it starts with resources, one. It starts with resisting arrest with people is like, you got to look at the relationship you have with the people. If I don't think you have any good faith at all when you deal with me because my experiences with you show that, then there's always going to be some hostility. And there's no service aspect to policing. That's why it's all bullshit. Protect and serve who and what? There's no service aspect. Service is not you do what I say. And that's it. That's not what service is. To be in service of somebody. So I think the police problem where people got a problem with them is because of them. Their marketing is fucked up.
I would agree with that, actually. I think, when I think of cops, even I have a little less melanin than the average black person does, but I think even when I think of cops and I see one, I don't think to myself, oh, I feel safer. This man is here or this woman is here and I can feel reassured of my safety. I don't ever feel that. So I definitely agree with you on that. I think that they don't I think every time I see a cop, I think that they are looking for a reason to arrest me. I think that they're looking for a way to cite me for whatever it is. But again, it goes back to the argument that I made earlier. If we, let's assume, we have to assume that that is always what's happening in your interaction with cops, that they have bad intentions, as you mentioned, and that we just want to get out of it safe. Okay, those are the two facts of the situation. Knowing those two facts, I would operate at my best behavior in order to make it out of that interaction safely. That's kind of what I want to try and teach people, as opposed to hating cops. You know, I can totally see why some people do hate cops or they don't like cops, but we need to teach them how to interact properly with them, even knowing that we don't like the cops. And I'm right there with you. I don't like the cops either. I like the role that they're supposed to fulfill, but I don't think that they fulfill that role either. So.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with her too, that the whole service aspect of the police has definitely kind of taken a turn for the worse. But the only way to remedy the situation is not to, I don't think it's hating on them and, you know, just thinking that every encounter you're going to have is going to lead to you getting shot is not a good mentality to have, and having a distrust to the point where you resist at every possible turn is not a solution either. You can still distrust people and distrust, you distrust what the actions of people are, but still have an underlying respect and have an underlying respect that so that way you can leave an encounter safely and without getting shot, without getting harassed, without getting arrested.
Bill from All Minus One in the YouTube chat is linking information to police statistics. He says, look up the Wall Street Journal. Biden claiming systemic racism in policing defies science. No statistical differences in policing arrest to crime. So maybe there's some good information for you guys. I don't know that personal set of data myself. I am aware of the general crime statistics, but I don't know that one. Maybe be good reference for some of the people listening. Many cops are in a world of their own, egocentric. Yeah, there's a lot of generic kind of agreement with my sentiment in chat. Most people aren't a fan of cops, and I think the caller was correct in that they haven't really done a good job of marketing themselves as service people. So agreement there. Agreement has been reached. Let's see. Let's go to C. Vey.
Okay, so no more hypotheticals. Here's a situation like from my situation. So here I am just trying to go to school. Cop says, hey, your car looks like it's rusty and dilapidated. Okay, that's one arrest. Lost my job. Had another traffic arrest. These are not things that I actually got convicted for. These were just arrests and held me. They arrested me for the same ticket one time. I lost my apartment because I wasn't able to pay my rent because they held me in for 3 weeks. They let me go. I had to be homeless on the streets because now all my stuff is gone and no conviction. And the third one, they arrested me for the same ticket 2 years later that I had already served time for because they never took it out of the system. I lost my apartment again, came out homeless. So, sir, yeah, sometimes you might want to run, depending on what the psychological situation that you've gone through.
So, okay. Well, I mean, if that's how your risk assessment algorithm works, if you think it's worth trying to flee from the police, I don't know what the long-term plan is. I mean, you're never going to get a job again if you flee from the police in one of those situations. And that's the best case scenario, is that you actually get away and you don't get harmed during the fleeing process. The worst case scenario, obviously, being you get shot or whatever. I don't think any of those would justify running from the police. And if you think fleeing or resisting is a proper reaction to any of those things you mentioned, admittedly, that does sound like a terrible situation, and I apologize for that. But I don't see any algorithm for risk management that would say fleeing or resisting is a proper response to any of those. And the fact that he thinks that would be a great indication of exactly what we need to talk about, because that is not good risk management. And we're here to try and educate people on that fact. We don't want anyone else to get shot by police. We don't want people to get injured by police. We don't want statistics. We don't want to see these news stories. So we have to tell people the proper risk management procedures.
Yeah, I just think very, very irresponsible to think that running from the cops and potentially getting yourself shot is a better deal than than just going through the motions and proving your case in court that you didn't deserve to get arrested or have all these charges brought up against you. Like, I'm sorry that happened to you, my friend, but I just think that the risk assessment analysis is just a little off.
Remember, the question was, what kind of interaction with the police would justify resisting arrest? And that's the answer that he gave. So I think that's just that's way off. And somebody in the YouTube chat says anecdotal doesn't really count, but Athenian says I'd rather lose an apartment than get shot. I would agree. Is a ticket is spending even if you were to say spending 5 years in jail, which is way beyond the worst case scenario that this guy probably ever faced, still not worth the high possibility of death. So risk management. That's what we need to teach these people.
Maybe he won't. I was gonna say maybe he's okay with dying on this hill, and if that's what it is, then you're entitled to that. But it's still like
he'll be on CNN in a few months.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, this one's gonna be good. Big boy.
Good evening. Why do blacks resist arrest? Wow. In other news. Wow. I'm appalled by your topic.
That's exactly why we're talking about it.
So you're telling me blacks are the only ones that resist arrest?
No.
Nope.
Are you saying that black people are the only people that resist arrest? Are you guys kidding me?
No.
Wow.
I'm not saying that.
And also, is life more valuable or if someone is running away in fear, you're saying it's okay to shoot them when they're running? Now, I can understand you defending yourself and shooting them if they're attacking you. But if someone is running, do you feel that life is not more important?
See, I predicted exactly what this guy would say, probably before he joined the stream, earlier in the stream. Did you hear me say that? I'll recap it again. They say, well, not having having a warrant out for your arrest is no reason for you to get killed, or running away from the cops isn't any justification for them to get death sentence, because that's what the narrative is. We don't want to talk about the decisions that led up to that, but we got a $5 super chat from Steve in the YouTube chat. It says, "Rip Keith Adonis Frank. You, sir, will live on in all of our lives. The joy you brought to all of us can never be forgotten. P.S. Don't run from the cops." So, thank you for that, Steve. Always appreciated. We are not saying that only black people resist arrest. We're just simply asking the question of why black people are resisting arrest, because that's what's in the news right now. We see these stories of black people getting shot. We want to just ask the question, why do they take the risk of resisting or fleeing in these police interactions? That's the question here. AOC is here chiming in, everybody. Here we go. Comment from AOC.
Why do black resist arrest? You meant black people. That's what you meant, right? Black people?
Yes.
Jesus Christ. Even you trying not to be racist, you guys are freaking racist. It is fucking ridiculous. Why do black people resist arrest and other news?
That is the question.
I'm surprised you didn't put the fucking S at the end of blacks. Why do black people resist arrest? And you're doing a podcast? What is the problem, bro? It's called fucking the English fucking dictionary.
Again, we got another grammar Nazi up in here.
I think we found the formula, Delaney. We found the formula to getting the comments that we wanted, and all it is very simple, is you just have a typo in the title. People will lose their over having a typo in the title. I think we figured out the key here. Notice she didn't address the actual issue at hand. She knew exactly what we were talking about, but she instead chose to get triggered about the typo instead of addressing the question or providing us with a substantive answer, which is, of course, the feminine response. Speaking of feminine response, we have our UK correspondent, Moneypenny.
Okay, sorry guys. This is a drop the mic moment. Hey, what's up is just, well, I'm unemployed. I'm never a correspondent again. You two guys might as well go home. This guy is terrific. I've never had such good entertainment.
Yes, I believe she's referring to David Spencer, and I would agree wholeheartedly. Those are definitely entertaining comments. Let's see. Okay, jumping to. I mean, we just have comments coming in, guys. So we're just pumping through these. I'm not neglecting the YouTube chat. Don't worry. I see you guys over there. I see you. So you get the special attention of the eye contact. Okay, the stereo doesn't get the eye contact. So just keep that in mind.
Right.
Big boy with a follow-up comment here.
Well, no, I won't say that. I agree. I agree that we must learn to not resist.
Right.
It will be better if you feel that you've been done wrong to go through the process, get a lawyer, and fight another day. I agree 100%. So, of course, yes, we do need to learn and teach all people, not just black people, but we need to teach all people to follow protocol, how it's supposed to be followed. But we still must not give cops an excuse to push around their badge and the privilege of having authority of being a cop to get away with a lot of actions they do by having a badge. Okay? That's my point. That's my point.
All right, so we agree,
Okay.
which is good. But there's a separate issue, which is the attitude of the cops. That's a whole separate issue. And it sounds like you're taking it a little personally, like you have a personal vendetta against the cops, right? Or if you were to be in interaction with the police, you would have a personal vendetta against him. You might get a little emotional about it if he were to act like the tough guy on the block with you, right? Yeah, no, we all do. But especially if you're a man, part of being a man is to not emotionally react in any way, which is why having a father in the household is so important, and having a father to teach you how to interact with these police officers, to teach you, look, the cop's going to rough you up, the cop's going to try to get you to lie, the cop's going to pretend he smells drugs in your car to do a search, he's going to do all these things, and guess what? You just have to not react. You have to not get emotional about it, because if you get emotional about it, then you're going to be more inclined to fight back, resist, do all these things that are going to increase your chances of getting hurt. But on the other issue, I'm glad we agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's good that you agree that we definitely need to address this issue of resisting, and I agree with you as well that the attitudes that the cops are having nowadays definitely needs to get curbed as well. But we can't help curb the cops' attitudes without curbing our own attitudes towards the police. So it's a two-way street.
Yes, two variable problem, not a single variable problem. It's a person and a cop problem. There's 50% responsibility distributed on each of those parties. And also, this kind of ties in with the narrative of defunding the police. If we want the police to be more trained and more well-funded, like in this case where the woman accidentally fired her firearm instead of the taser, isn't that a situation where we would want to go back and say, we need to train people like her more? Which would be completely antithetical to defund the police. Defunding the police, you know what that's going to get you? It's going to get you more accidents like that, because defunding the police means less training for the police. Where do you think the funding goes for the police? You know how many hours they spend on training, for medical training, for de-escalation training, for physical training? They have so much training that they have to do, and if you defund them, a lot of that is going to come from the training. So the defund the police narrative is completely at odds with the whole we need to train cops more narrative. So it's really one or the other. Sorry, we got Matt from oh man, a guy that I used to do YouTube videos with in chat, dropping some funny comments here. Cut from Cut Productions. We did a live stream video with him from Reno a couple months back. Always appreciate him dropping the insightful comments in the chat. Just a spoiler alert, they're not insightful at all.
They're just dirty.
Yep, just dirty. In it.
Wow. Okay, sorry for commenting for a third time, but that's extraordinary. You had two comments there in a row that just said the exact same thing, that Big Boy and AOC. They literally sounded like mouthpieces, extensions of mainstream media. It's like they've been wound up by something and then just let off. Just constantly trying to find offence with anything instead of actually looking at the issue. Extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary.
Yes. Well, that's what we're trying to address.
Yeah, they definitely are wound up little toys and gizmos. And whenever somebody says something that they don't like, they unwind and just let it all loose. And even without giving any kind of insight or any kind of real comment, it's just pure emotion.
Well, see, here's the thing about these conversations is that you notice the framing of them. It's never, ever about what I can do, what my personal responsibility is in these interactions with police. It's always about the police, what the police are doing, what their attitudes are, how they're acting, and how they want to be a tough guy and abuse the badge. It's all about the police, and that's not the recipe to getting a resolution to the issue. Again, remember, there's two variable problem. You and the police. What portion of that distribution do you have control over? You have 0% control over the actions of the police. So why would you worry about the actions of the police in an interaction with the police? You should never worry about the actions of the police officer in the interactions because you have no power over his actions. The only power you have is to influence the interaction through your own behavior. So again, we don't want to talk about personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is a kind of a taboo subject in the black community, it seems like, because everywhere from the ground level up all the way up to Don Lemon, Barack Obama, you name it, nobody ever hints at the ability for the black people to control their own outcomes in these interactions. It's always about the cops, the system, the racism, the supremacy. I put white supremacy and oppression in the same word. I like that. I want to run with that. Supremacy. It just saves some syllables, you know?
Yeah, and then if you are black and you do talk about these, if you do try to talk about personal accountability, you're labeled as a coon or an Uncle Tom or a sellout or the house N-word.
That's a good
you're
point.
Never like it's you get ostracized just by trying to point out any kind of flaw in logic in the communities that they are from, and they're seeing it. And then if you're not even of that skin color and you're trying to like make comments on it, you get told that you're not allowed to make a comment about it because you're not in that demographic. Like, how much more racist can you get, honestly?
Yeah, that's a great point, is that when a black guy tries to point out the fact that you should have some personal responsibility, they're so quick to jump on him and call him every kind of racist term, coons, whatever it is. They love doing that. And you can tell by that behavior, the trend of that behavior, that it seems like they don't want people to know that they have power in these interactions. They want the black people to feel powerless in these police interactions. So an objective observer would have to come to that conclusion. Let's see. Yeah, Dari says no personal accountability in the YouTube chat. Yeah, the YouTube comments have gone downhill quick, Holly, thanks to Matt from Cut Productions. Let's go to, luckily the stereo comments keep coming in here, and let's see what Big Boy has as a follow-up.
He wasn't trying to be confrontational. He just wanted to know what was going on. The cop was belligerent, out of his noodles. That authority, want to push around.
Let me play his other one first.
Let me give you an example. For instance, I literally don't see anything wrong that lieutenant did to be treated the way he was treated. He had both of his hands out of the window. When the cops jumped out with their guns drawn, he literally told them he was afraid. He wanted to know what was going on. Due to the reputation that cops have, especially with citizens, he had reason for concern. And also when that happened, we all know, and I hate to bring color in the issue, but I have to be honest, more than likely if he was a white lieutenant, it would have been a whole different turnout. But I just think it was totally unnecessary, man. And the man, I think he did the right thing. He had his hands out. What, he wasn't trying to be resentful. I'm gonna continue.
All right, let him finish his statement here.
He wasn't trying to be confrontational. He just wanted to know what was going on. The cop was belligerent, out of his noodles. That authority, want to push around his badge. I'm not gonna say push around his weight because he never would approach anyone like that if he didn't have his badge. But he want to push his badge around, his authoritative thing, and I really think that's just probably had to do with color. Because I seriously think if it would have been a white lieutenant in the army, he wouldn't have even responded like that. Because most times they give guys who serve the country breaks most of the time. So yeah, I do have like a personal issue with these cops because that badge give them a sense of courage, and they become control freaks with that badge. They feel that they can push their weight around with that
See?
badge. So you might be right. You might have me right about that.
There it is. See, and I think that's a common thing. I mean, just as an observer, again, I've only been identifying as black for a short period of time, but as an observer of this for a longer period of time, it's something you can see without having to participate in that culture. You can see that they treat cops with disdain. In mentally speaking, they think that cops are always trying to be tough guys. Cops are always trying to push the badge around. But on that lieutenant video, I would ask this: did you see the 2-minute long video, or did you see the full video? Because chances are, sounded like the Australian guy anyway commented that they're just kind of going off of what they see on the media. The media video, the version of that video, shows a completely different story than the full version of that video, and I would recommend watching the full version of that video before you come to any conclusions on that confrontation.
Yeah, I haven't even seen the video at all. I've heard people talk about it on social media, but I haven't sat and watched it because the whole this whole thing with this kid in Minneapolis happened, and that's kind of been taken the limelight now. Is this kid that was shot over an air freshener in his rearview mirror?
Yep. Well, I had the same opinion, and when I first saw the short version of that video, but when you see the full video, you're like, oh, okay, all right, yeah. We got our New York correspondent, David Spencer.
So here's another point. When those who have been taught by the intelligentsia, right, and they start accusing you of being a racist, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. It's a sign that you're on the right track. They're trying to shut you down. They're trying to use fear as a tactic. Oh my goodness, I don't want anyone to think I'm a racist. I don't know what to do. I gotta shut down. But don't shut down, keep going. Because they've been taught these various techniques. It's almost second nature to them. They'll be offended at something instead of addressing something. And the ultimate aim is to shut you down. So I'm just telling you, it's the truth. I see it. I'm not stupid. I sound stupid, but I'm not stupid.
There's actually supporting evidence for that exact narrative, because one of the stories that we wanted to talk about tonight was the Project Veritas getting video recordings of CNN admitting that the reason they're covering the Matt Gaetz sexual allegations so much is because Matt Gaetz is an effective member of the Republican Party, and they want to take him out. So you seem to be, I'm not going to say you are, I'm going to say, based on the objective observer that I am, the things that I'm witnessing, you appear to be correct, sir, because we know that they will, anytime somebody is very effective, notice they're never taking down like some willy-nilly politician you never heard of. It's always, who, Matt Gaetz? How long do you think until an allegation against DeSantis comes forward, because he's just been killing it lately, right? Just start the countdown clock. There's going to be an allegation against DeSantis because he's the most effective member of the Republican Party right now, and that's why they targeted Matt Gaetz. So yeah, racism, sexual harassment, you're diddling kids, whatever it is, they're going to do something to try and discredit you.
Yeah. He's right on the money when he says that when they call you and you kind of like ad hominem or something that you can't dispute, you are onto something, and they don't want you to continue to say it, because then they would have to confront the own lies that have been perpetrated by their own communities. So I mean, I don't blame them. You get really defensive when, people are accusing you or the community that you belong to of horrible things. But if, with all the stuff that's like, just for instance, because I'm the token lesbian in this chat. All of the Republicans and all of the, people in general are like, oh, gays are trying to legalize pedophilia instead of going, oh no, that's not happening, cognitive dissonance. I'm confronting it and like going, yeah, and I disagree with that, and I think that's disgusting. We need to stop it. It's like, yes, am I a part of the community? Of course, but that doesn't mean I'm going to sit by and watch bad things happen in my community and not address it.
Yeah, so if you guys didn't see it already, Project Veritas did release a big dump today. They got CNN guys admitting everything, like saying they're trying to paint Biden in a good light, and it was some like a technical director, somebody pretty high up in CNN. So I'd recommend checking that out. We'll go over it later if we have time, but so far we've been killing it with the stereo interactions, so we're just going to keep the conversation going on that. We got a newcomer to the stereo here, DPO, with a comment.
Yeah, they're trying to take out Matt Gaetz, and next on the list is Ron DeSantis, and I'm sure right after that there will be another one.
Boom. Yep. You can see it coming, and we know the playbook so well because they can't beat these people in a political arena, right, or an ideological arena. They have to discredit them otherwise. They have to get them out of the battle some other method.
Yeah, and what better way to get people out of a battle than like coming up with a sexual harassment, lawsuit, or people that have been sexually harassed or molested or whatever by somebody, because that's it's kind of very hard to disprove it happened after the fact. That's one of those things where people will generally like listen and believe it without actually listening to any kind of evidence or facts to go along with it.
Now, it's not always successful. We got Kavanaugh, for example. Justice Kavanaugh survived through the skin of his neck because probably because it was happened like 40 years ago or whatever it was, right? And let me think, who else do sexual allegations not work against? Who are some people that have been in sexually explicit situations lately that haven't gotten any repercussions? Maybe like the governor of New York, Cuomo.
Oh, yeah,
What's
Cuomo.
he up to? Like 19?
I was going to say Cuomo.
19 accusers now? How many accusers is he up to? He's still in there. He's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. He doesn't care. It doesn't appear to work if you're on the left. Swalwell was having relations with a Chinese spy. This person who's on our National Intelligence Committee was literally hanging around with the Chinese spy. No repercussions. No, who cares? Whatever. Let's see. Who else? Biden sniffing little kids on video like 1,000 times. Nobody wants to talk about that? That's not weird for anybody? That he grabs and gropes little children and he like kisses them on the lips and stuff like that. We don't want to talk about that. But so it seems to me that methodology only works if you are on the right. But hey, I'm just an observer. I'm only observing trends as I see them. I could be wrong. Another one from DPO.
You mentioned doing things to make change in your community. What sort of things are you willing to do to make change?
So I outlined kind of a rough plan that I would do. There's two approaches to it, and the feminine approach is to make the government do the change for you, right? So say, hey, local city government, local or federal government, make the change that I want to see for me. That's the feminine approach. The masculine approach is to do it yourself through your own family. I would teach my kids, assuming we're still talking about police interactions, I would teach my kids how to interact with police properly. And that would be the extent of my caring of the situation. I wouldn't care about the guy across town who has a potentially bad interaction with police. It's his outcome that he got as a result of having bad parents. Now, again, if you want to take the feminine approach of making the government do it for you, then you would implement something like actual school curriculum where you're taught how to interact with police, what the legal system is like, how to interact with the legal system, as opposed to maybe where can we trim some fat out of the educational curriculum right now? Maybe how to be a transgender. I'd say we could take some resources out of that and put something into how to interact with the legal system. little more valuable, a little more applicable for most students. And part of that would be, this is what a police officer is going to try to do to you during an interaction. He's going to try to get you to self-incriminate. He's going to try to get into your car. You can say, I don't want to search, whatever. And this is how you should react properly. Kind of like a dare for drugs, but implement it into the curriculum if you want to take that feminine approach of making the government do it for you. Otherwise, just do it through your own family.
Mm-hmm. Educate yourself and educate those around you and those nearest and dearest to you, instead of just expecting the government to take care of everything. Daddy government isn't going to be able to fix what's going on inside of all of us. I think the best, like Jeremy said, the best approach is to try your best and educate yourself and educate those around you. That's number one, probably going to be the smartest approach to solving these problems in your own community. But I mean, if you really want to go down that rabbit hole of trying to get the government involved, it's not gonna end up, with good results, because we all know what happens when the government gets too much power. It's never anything good.
Truer statements have never been made. Let's continue on with the YouTube comments here. This is from Carly.
Whenever a community denies its problems, it's suspicious, is what it is. Whenever the gay community denies the problem of pedophilia we have, because I would say largely 70% of the gay community are pedophiles. Every single person that denies that there's a problem in our community, I think, is defending it or hiding something. I think that about every community that denies any problem like that. It's suspicious.
I think that's a good methodology to use. If you see someone denying it, why? The question is, why don't you want to talk openly about it? If there's nothing there, let's just hash it out real quick with a discussion. What do you think, Delaney?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been one of the people in the gay community that's tries to speak to people about this, and most people are shocked and surprised that they're learning about these things from me. And that's all I'm trying to do, is just educate and make people aware of the issues that's going on, and hopefully we can get some awareness going and put an end to some bad stuff that goes on in certain communities. And I think the same could be said in the Black community with the resisting arrest. It's like, if you know that, we're not saying like not all, but a lot of, Black people do resist arrest. Like, instead of telling them like continue to do it and potentially get shot and have more charges put on you, like, hey, there's certain things that you can do, certain procedures that you can go through in order to have a positive police encounter where both people get to walk away alive. And I think that's a smarter methodology than just resisting and mouthing off and not addressing the real issues.
We have a good comment in the YouTube chat from Bill at all-1. I just got to point this one out. He says, because we were talking a little bit about Biden there, he says, Biden is a good man except for his plagiarism, lying, racist statements, failure to his son, corrupt dealings with foreign nations, warmongering, and general globalist agenda. Well said, sir. I think he also is a good man.
The media has told me that he's a decent man. No, not good, just decent.
Yeah, that's the standard we have today. Decent. Let's go to Jeffrey over in stereo.
Just like they're trying to get rid of Tucker Carlson,
Yes.
It's crazy, and people just stand by. As of you being the token lesbian, no. You just said something so profound. You said, just because it's my community doesn't mean if something's wrong, it's something wrong. And I love you for that, because I don't see that. I don't see that with the Democrats that much. And I might be biased by saying that, but so I love you for that. Okay.
Oh, I love you too.
Get some love on that one, Delaney. But yeah, no, he brought up a great point about the Tucker Carlson thing. Holy smokes, the left hates Tucker Carlson. And why? It's not because he's a racist. He doesn't say anything racist. He doesn't say anything white supremacist. What he does say, and what they'll say he says, is like white supremacist adjacent talking points. That's not really white supremacist, but white supremacists sometimes like to go to McDonald's, so McDonald's is white supremacist adjacent too, by their standard, you know what I mean? But they're going after him with anything they possibly can. Why? Because he's incredibly effective, just like Matt Gaetz. They're going after Gaetz because he's incredibly effective, which is exactly why we can predict that there's going to be some scandal in no time at all about Ron DeSantis. I mean, they already tried to make a scandal, a failed scandal in the media about how he was doing pay for play with the vaccines at that one retail store, right? We saw him shoot that narrative down live in a press conference. That if that got out of hand without him having the chance to correct it live, maybe that could have been like, DeSantis is doing pay for play operations in Florida. They could have it's how easy these things pop up out of nowhere, and it's essentially like playing whack-a-mole. Unless you have the opportunity to personally resolve it like that, you can't stop these things from spreading, which is why all these lies are out there about Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, I feel bad for Tucker because he's like one of the few news correspondents that I actually enjoy listening to. Because not only does he have like a pretty good voice, but he also, I think, Dari in a YouTube chat says Tucker uses their own words against them, which he's really, really effective at doing that. And that's why they're afraid of him. They hate him because he uses their own words against them and makes them look dumb. And that's why they can't, like, they're just trying to cancel him as much as they can.
Yep.
When it's like, hey, instead of trying to just get this guy canceled, how about like get smarter and just refute what he's saying with facts and logic and knowledge like he does. But they don't want to play that game. They just want to play the cancel game because he's too smart and too courageous for actually speaking up against us.
You can't cuck the tuck. That's right. And Synergy says Tucker just swims upstream of the narrative river. He has all the wrong conversations. That is exactly what it is. He talks about the topics that are forbidden. I forbode you from talking about whatever Tucker Carlson talks about. This is David, our New York correspondent.
So speaking about the playbook is very old. The playbook called the dirty, rotten game that is politics, okay? You want to discredit someone who's on the moral high ground, you send him a 17-year-old honeypot and you hope he makes the wrong decision, okay? And when he makes the wrong decision, he made the wrong decision. And you go forward with your attacks. Now, I hope it's not true. I hope it's not true. But I'm telling you, the political playbook is old. And the Democrats have had it. The Republicans don't have the playbook. Listen, here's the playbook for the Republican. A, be a pussy.
Yes.
Be the biggest fucking pussy you've ever thought of ever being. And is that not Lindsey Graham, South Carolina?
Yes.
Or am I fucking making that shit up?
This guy's great.
Oh my God. This is why we do stereo, exactly for that kind of stuff right there. No, you couldn't be more correct.
Get those hidden gems.
The Republicans are awful at this. They can't play the game, and they have the good ideas, but their execution is god awful, which is why they're losing everything right now, from bottom to the top. From every institution is controlled by leftists. The politicians are all controlled by leftists right now. It's because the Republicans are weak. Absolutely correct, sir. And yeah, the playbook has been around for a long time. Oddly enough, the right has not gotten wind of how it actually works. Let's see. We got Big Boy with a follow-up.
I absolutely agree. It starts at home and spread abroad. You have to teach your kids the proper way of doing things. You're absolutely correct.
Boom. See, Big Boy, we agree on pretty much everything.
I don't know if you guys have your statistics right, because you keep saying blacks resisting. Do you guys realize that more whites resist than blacks?
Probably.
I think you guys need to do a little more research before you make these comments, because you have more white people resist arrest than blacks, man.
There's more white
It's kind of crazy that you guys say blacks. A lot of blacks do it, man. All ethnicities do it, but white is the top. You got to look these things up. Look the statistics up, family. Whites resist more than blacks.
Yeah, because there's more white people.
Well, okay, yeah, no, we definitely agree that there are more white people interact with cops, more white people just statistically do everything generally more, except for commit more crimes, proportionality speaking. But we're talking about just the black people, because we don't see any stories on the news about white people getting shot by police as a result of resisting arrest, do we? I think we would agree on that, right? The narrative right now is what we're talking about. That's why the show is called The Weekly Narrative. And if you guys are enjoying this show, by the way, hit a like button on the YouTube, get a follow on the stereo, because we do this every Tuesday and Saturday at 7 p.m. PST. Did you love that segue into the self-shilling? I thought it was good.
It's pretty good, Jeremy. It was pretty good, not gonna lie.
Okay, we got another quick follow-up from Big Boy, and then we got David.
Do you guys even know that more whites are getting killed by cops than blacks?
Yes.
Again, because there's more white people.
I mean, come on, guys. You got to do your research before you make these statements.
Well, we do, yes. Like I said, they're statistically outpacing blacks in most statistics because they're a bigger proportion of the population. But the narrative is about black people and their interactions with cops. That's why we're talking about that. Let's see.
Yeah, you don't have whole organizations dedicated to pointing out when white people are getting shot and killed by police for resisting. You have that with Black Lives Matter. That's why we're trying to talk about this thing. Like, why are we putting that spotlight on this one thing when we should be talking about, like, what can the community as a whole do to, like, prevent these things from happening or make the encounters with police a lot smoother. But instead, all we see is just we blame it on the white cops. We blame it on the cops in general.
Yeah, there's a reason that nobody in the stereo chat knows who Tony Timpa is. And it's because media doesn't like to cover police brutality against white people. Go YouTube the video of Tony Timpa. Go Dallas police and then Tony Timpa. And ask yourself why that wasn't really covered on the news at all, despite it being as brutal as any black interaction with the police that you've ever seen. Let's see. David.
That's another thing. White supremacists. I mean, what the fuck is a white supremacist, huh? I mean, the last white supremacist I remember was Andrew Jackson, okay? The Democrats, I don't understand how they get, with a straight face, get to say white supremacists when they were the party of white supremacy. Andrew Jackson, the Southern Separation. I mean, you know, they taught us some shit back in my day, all right? So they used to ride around on horseback, Biden's great-grandpappy. I don't know. I don't fucking know. But I'm telling you, the fact that they use the term white supremacy is an offense to any kind of intelligence. Because the crap they used to do back in the day, burn towns down they used to do. They just did it last year in the friggin' Minneapolis. The same friggin' people.
Well, you can get away with calling anything white supremacy as long as you expand the definition of white supremacy to include literally everything, including, but up to, but not including, like keeping time properly or being on time. What are some other really stupid things that have been called white supremacy culture?
Taking care of your families and getting married and raising your children is white supremacy.
Yep, having a family, just having a family is white supremacy. So yeah, I mean, it's really easy. You call anything white supremacy these days when literally everything is white supremacy by your definition.
Yep.
Big boy, you're probably right, and that's why whites get shot by cops more than blacks do, and killed by cops. It just doesn't make the news, or we don't write every time a white person resists arrest and gets shot. So you're right.
It's a great point. Yeah, can't think of one time when white people have ever. Well, we know Black Lives Matter is mostly white, but we haven't seen any people rioting for the death of white people. So white people do riot, but they riot for black people.
That's another good point you make, and that's where our reason for concern need to come up when it comes to believing everything from the media. It's why everybody's on this thing about media painting a picture that's not really real, because if the statistics is showing one thing, but media is showing different, then maybe we need to be looking at what media has going on. So you're making a good point when you say that.
Somebody has he's got the red pill right here. He's almost ready to throw it back. He's ready.
he's there. He's right on the cusp of just swallowing that pill down and accepting that the media is probably the biggest problem in just all communities across the United States.
Well, we talked about it earlier in the stream, and how else can you describe how people can think when they get surveyed that 1,000 people get killed every year by police, black people, but in reality it's only like 13 unarmed black people getting killed by police every year, 1 per month, which when you statistically you consider the amount of police interactions. You can go to the Wall Street Journal's police use of force database, I believe it's called, and you can look this up for yourself. That's less than 1%. So if you interact with police as a black person, you have a very low, incredibly low chance of getting shot by police, assuming you are unarmed, you don't resist, and you don't flee. So we gotta ask yourself, where does the disproportionality in the reality come from? 13 versus 1,000? Well, maybe it might have a problem with the media.
Yeah, the media definitely hypes it up and makes it out to be like there's just a huge like killing spree. Like the cops are rounding up black people and lining them up and shooting them, when that's not really what's going on at all.
And if there was 1,000 black people, unarmed black people getting shot by cops every year, I'd be out on the streets too. I'd get a poster. I'd protest. I'm right there with you, because that is absurd. But what we have now is everyone stuck in this, what I call the fallacy of perfection, where they think a world with 0 police shootings is possible. It's not possible. If we're going to have an adult conversation about this, we have to acknowledge that a perfect world is not possible. So when I tell you that 8 out of 50 million police interactions ended in the death of a black man, an unarmed black man, that to me is incredibly good statistics. I would be satisfied with that number. And I know it sounds bad to say that. It sounds bad to say I'm satisfied with somebody dying unjustly. But the reality is, again, this is where being an adult comes into play. You have to acknowledge perfection is not possible. You can't have 0. We all want 0. I want 0. You want 0. Everybody wants 0. 0 isn't possible. 8 is a really good number. We don't live in a white supremacist system. We don't live in a reality where cops are hunting black people, but they think that that is the reality.
Yeah.
Let's go to, we got a new guy, Zakan.
Prior to Barack Obama, under 10% of the 15,000 law enforcement agencies, more than 15,000 law enforcement agencies in the country. Prior to Obama, under 10% reported their police shootings to the FBI. Fast forward to 2021, what percentage of law enforcement agencies throughout the country, out of the thousands of them, what percentage of those agencies actually report their shootings to the FBI? Because we say we know this many people got shot, that many people got shot, but that's only based on the people that actually give their stats to the FBI. Is America at the point right now where 20% of their law enforcement agencies are reporting, 50, 80, all of them?
It's a good question.
That is a good question. That's something that I don't have the answer to. I would like to think and hope that all of the law enforcement agencies are reporting it, because from what I understand, whenever they discharge a weapon, they have to account for what happened to that bullet and what caused them to shoot that weapon. So I would assume that they would have to report, just anything like that to the FBI or to the DOJ. But he might be onto something when he's saying that maybe they're not reporting. A lot of law enforcement agencies aren't reporting these incidents.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to that perfection fallacy. I wouldn't expect 100% coverage of this anyway. And do you really need 100% coverage to get kind of trends? What we really need is the inner city departments providing us with their statistics. You don't need the 15,000 person town in Hobunk, Nebraska, to be giving you police shooting statistics, because it's not going to provide anything for you anyway. So to counterpoint his question, if only 10% were reporting, If it were the 10% of all the biggest cities in the country, that's really all we need, right? Am I wrong on that? So it's not necessarily a bad thing that we don't have 100% of the agencies reporting, but I definitely do want to look into that and get some further background on that. The OSIS.
Well, a really messed up case that happened recently was Trevor Seaver. His family did a welfare check on him, and I don't remember the exact, but he ended up like cowering next to a building with his hands up, and the guy just straight up smoked him from like 30 yards away. It was a cop.
Jeez.
And nothing really happened. No reporting on it. I think the cop got fired, and that's about it. I think they're suing for wrongful death or something. But the video, there's a badge cam of it, and it's pretty horrific. Totally unarmed. I don't think he was resisting either. I think he just was like trying to figure out what was going on his knees with his hands up, and that was the end of that. No rioting. When I see somebody that's dumb and resists arrest or is fighting with cops and they get smoked and they're white, I just go, well, that was dumb.
Right? Same for me. Like, doesn't matter what the color is. If you're going to try to fight cops on the street and resist arrest, you're just an idiot, and you're asking to have harm done to you. If you don't want harm done to you, then don't resist. Don't run away. Like, it's simple.
Yeah, and there's a reason I never heard about that particular case that he brings up, because probably, again, he was white. If he was black, I probably would have heard about it for 2 months straight. I did look at some statistics here from FBI.gov. It says the Uniform Crime Reporting Services includes data from more than 18,000 city, university, and college, county, state, tribal, and federal law enforcement agencies. So I'd consider that pretty thorough. Again, assuming that most of those are from the inner cities, which is really the data that we want to see.
Yeah, and they even collect it from the tribes. I think that's pretty good too. Like, they even think about going and collecting data from them.
Can't make any claims of racism there.
Right? They go get the data from the people that they don't even need to get data. They shouldn't need to get data from, but they still do it.
Stalking Horse says, "Wellness check. He's well. Shoot him." That's like a dystopian version of the wellness check, like police. Like, it's kind of like Equilibrium, that movie where, if you feel emotion, then you get attacked or whatever.
You get zapped.
Yep. Or worse. Let's see. Okay, we finally caught up to all the stereo comments. We're at 1 hour and 46 minutes. Well, we got one more from the crowd favorite, David Spencer.
Well, if there was these cases of white people resisting and being shot, the news wouldn't play it, my friends, because it doesn't fit the narrative. The narrative right now is to get the country up in an uproar here, there, and everywhere to aid the revolution of the Democrat proletariat. I mean, this is the friggin' communist playbook right out of Mao Zedong right here. But the thing is people in different communities, whether they be black or white, they don't understand what's going on. They don't see it. What they see is what they were fed. And that's what comes out of their mouth and out of everything. But if you would just honestly look that these people are showing you some stuff, but they're not living that way, then I think maybe you ought to make up your mind and say, there's something wrong here, but you're not doing that.
Useful idiots, I think, is what they call them in that ideology. But he brings up a good question. Why don't these people ever, and I apply this different aspects of all those stories that we cover that are kind of ongoing chronic issues, if you will. Why don't anybody ever stop and evaluate the effectiveness of the programs or the ideologies that they're implementing? For example, we've had feminism for who knows how many years now, and women's happiness, according to studies, continues to just plummet. But we haven't stopped and evaluated whether or not maybe feminism is a good thing. Should we continue doing it? Same thing with the black stuff. If we continue on by just promoting a culture of hating police, saying that police are going to hunt us, saying that police want to, any chance they get, they want to arrest you, they want to do whatever to you, then maybe we should stop and evaluate, based on the statistics and how these things are turning out, whether or not that's a good thing to continue doing. but we never do
Right.
that. We never stop and evaluate our actions. We never, what I call, live intentionally. We just do, like the Spence said, they do what they're basically programmed to do.
Mm-hmm. Just never a audit, like a self audit or just a group audit of how effective things are. Like you said, feminism that's been around since the 60s, and since feminism and all the rights that women have gained through feminism and through the feminist movement, women aren't happier. And why is that? If we have all these rights and all these things that we didn't have before, that made women so sad and miserable before, like, why are women drinking more, just putting themselves in harm's way and having like just a very kind of crappy life? That if like you said, if we're gonna like actually evaluate it, then I would say that there's a lot of things that aren't working, and the question moving forward is, how do we fix it? How do we undo generations of this learned behavior that people have been convinced actually is working?
That right there is the $1 trillion question, isn't it? That's what everyone wants to know. It seems like this whole political thing, if you're involved in political discussions as we are, the point is, seemingly, how to fix a problem. How do we fix this? And as you guys know, the solution that I've offered is a little bit different. It's not really a solution. It's more of a parallel to the society we have right now, because I would argue that it's not savable. I would argue that it's simply a matter of time. You can wait it out. It's going to take, if you fixed everything that needed to be fixed right now, it would still take like 2 generations for that to really take effect. So knowing that fact, is spending your life talking about these things, going to riots, going to protests, trying to make political laws go through and things like that, is it all really worth it? I don't know. Maybe you might think it is. I tend not to think so. I don't want to tie myself anymore to a system that is only growing in power and reducing my power. I want to try and separate myself from that as far as possible. But that's just me. I'm not offering any prescriptions.
I mean, yeah, that's just one solution. I think people need to honestly take their power back, because, like you said, the powers that be have convinced us to give our power up and give up, what makes this whole country amazing, is the fact that individuals have power, and the collective of individuals has power as well. But we have surrendered our power to the government, to the powers that be. Not even the government, even the giant corporations and the people that run them. We've just surrendered all of it.
How dare you? We love our giant corporations. I'm totally anti-fascist, but I agree with everything Coca-Cola says. Now, I can give you a place where you might want to start if you really want to try to fix a problem, because in response to the Daunte Wright shooting, the police gave a press briefing on the riots that occurred afterwards. So after these shooting occurred, there was riots last night and the night before in Minneapolis. And the police were obviously trying to control these. There was use of, concussion grenades and smoke and all that kind of stuff, because they were trying to disperse what was becoming a violent crowd. They specifically called it a riot because the crowd was throwing things like bricks at cops. And in this press conference, we've talked about the media in just today, but we always talk about the media because really that's how most people interact with these stories, right? It's through the media. Check out how the media is handling this press conference. Now, I can't play the video because the stereo people won't hear it, but luckily the transcript is available here. So Brooklyn Center Police Chief Tim Gannon calls the shooting of Daunte Wright a, quote, accidental discharge. He says, "It is my belief that the officer had intention to employ their taser, but instead shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet." And after that, he was asked about the quote-unquote protests or demonstrations. He says, "I was front and center at the protest, at the riot." And then the press, the journalists at the event said, "Don't do that. There was no riot." The journalists, who weren't even there, are telling the police officer that you're not supposed to say there was a riot. Don't do that. There was no riot. Throwing bricks at cops' heads and burning things down and looting buildings and smashing windows, that's not a riot. The journalists
okay.
were literally crafting the narrative out of thin air as the police were telling them what happened in reality. They were pushing back on reality. That seems like a major problem to me, because these people are going to be the ones who go on to write the stories that you consume, that you get your idea of reality from. Does anybody see a problem with that? Or does everybody think that's totally cool?
I see a big problem with that, because it's just cognitive delusion, honestly. They have somebody telling them what's going on, and they're like, no, don't say that. We're not going to say that. And then they go on to report the exact opposite of what happened, and then people are convinced that, like, no, there was no riot. Nobody got hurt. It's like,
Totally
no,
peaceful.
You can't... Totally
Remember,
peaceful.
yeah, when CNN told us that the burning building in the background, there was a peaceful protest?
Oh, yeah. Totally peaceful.
That's what they're trying to do here. Mostly peaceful, okay? Only one brick hit a cop's head. It was mostly peaceful, guys.
Only one building got looted, and another building got burnt down. It's mostly peaceful.
Yeah, so that's how, and again, combine that with the fact that most people aren't actually watching the video of the interaction, which was released almost immediately. So if you don't watch the video of the interaction, you believe that they were the lie about the being pulled over for an air freshener, and then you see a story about how there weren't any riots, you're less inclined to think that the response to this thing from the public was disproportional, was bad, and you're more inclined to believe the narratives about how police are evil and they need to be defunded or whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? So this is how they attack you from all angles. You are under assault, which is why you need to watch shows like this where you get the full narrative, okay? So
I agree. Yeah, tune in, folks. youtube.com/weeklynarrative. And we're also streaming on stereo at Weekly Narrative. And I'm the young degenerate lesbian, the co-host. So give us a follow. We'd love to hear from you guys.
yeah, we're here for discussion. We don't like to just tell people stuff. We want the discussion, and preferably disagreement, actually. Disagreement is the most fun. Stalking Horse in the YouTube chat says, were any big screens acquired? No, I don't think so. Well, I'm actually, I take that back. I did see a GameStop. No, they don't carry TVs at GameStop. They definitely got some PS4s and PS5s, but let me show you this picture that came from one of those protests, because I think it'll paint a picture of what's really going on behind the scenes and how these people really feel. This is from outside of a Nike store in Minnesota. Now I want you to pay attention to the person up front. For those in the stereo just listening, what you're looking at on your screen is about, I don't even know if this is actually from Minnesota, but it's from one of the recent protests/riots. About 100 people outside of a Nike store, and there's a black woman with her arms full of what appears to be about 6 pairs of shoes, walking away from the broken glass of the Nike store with a gigantic smile on her face, as if she cannot smile or laugh any harder. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, I mean, it's just really, the subtitle of this is, use promo code BLM to receive a 100% discount at Nike. So you can see the pain and suffering in her eyes. You can see the white supremacy, the years of oppression coming out in the facial expressions. Now, I'm not a body language expert, but I don't think you need to be to see how much the white supremacy has really crushed this woman into the ground. So just
you don't see the white supremacist that's across the street that has a gun to her head.
Oh, yes.
and telling her that she has to loot and take all the Nikes from the store.
Right.
You're not seeing that, but there's so much white supremacy that you don't see it.
It's just outside the frame of the shot. Yeah, it's there. Don't think it's not there.
Yeah, he's there with a gun, and he's threatening to mow all the people down that are looting. He's telling them, "I'm going to mow you down if you don't burn and loot this business. So you better go in there and steal some Nikes."
What's up? We got Kizza. We got Kizza in chat. Yeah, this is why we need what is it? Kizzarism. I think this is that's his tagline.
Kizzarism. Our Supreme Emperor Kizza across the pond.
Oh yeah, all big screens within a 4-block radius are gone. Yep, 27 million. Who knows how much this one will cost? The taxes will go through the roof. Well, you got to riots of peace. Yes, I'm sorry, Bill. These are riots of peace. That those Nikes were acquired peacefully. you got to wonder what the status of the city is, right? Like, I mean, how much can this city really withstand? How many cops are leaving? How much does it cost to correct these things and to repair all those glass windows, to pay back the business owners, the insurance costs, all this? Is it sustainable? Is it sustainable to have a society like this? I don't think it is.
Well, and also, is the FBI going to use their resources to figure out who was doing all the looting, like they did with the Capitol insurrection? You remember how quickly after the insurrection,
Snap.
the FBI was pointed
Great
the
point.
fingers and found all the people involved in that? How
Great point.
are they going to use the same tactics and the same resources to find all the people that looted and burned down the city?
I'm sure they have all of their special agents on the ground right now to get those Air Jordans back. No doubt in my mind. But yeah, no, that's a great question, because I just saw on my Twitter feed today, still the FBI is posting pictures of these people saying, have you seen this man? He was present at the Capitol protest. He was seen drinking from a water fountain inside the Capitol. This is a violation of federal law. Have you seen this man? And meanwhile, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but they were literally trying to burn down a federal building in Portland like 2 nights ago. Haven't seen one post from the FBI on that one. There were actually people inside, too. So they're trying to burn a building down, a federal building, with people inside. I'm pretty sure that's attempted murder. And not one post on Facebook. FBI is like, have you seen this man over here?
Yeah, have you seen these white people that stormed the Capitol and made us look like chumps, but turn a blind eye to Antifa and BLM rioting and looting businesses and causing all kinds of infrastructure damage?
See, I'm with OSIS. OSIS says let them implode. Those companies tend to support those people. Yes,
I agree.
That's where I tend to take the more natural selection route with all this stuff. Let these maladaptive ideologies really take hold. I'm a big fan of giving people exactly what they want, because the unfortunate reality is, people, and you have to acknowledge this, you can't convince people of the correct thing to do. Sometimes they have to experience the consequences of their own actions, and that's the only way that they're going to learn. So unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of collateral damage. These cities are going to burn down again, but eventually they'll learn, like, oh, maybe we should actually enforce the law. Maybe, we have all these National Guardsmen out here. We have all these cops out here. They're just standing there and they're not actually doing anything. They're watching these rioters loot and destroy stuff. Maybe we should actually let them enforce the law. Unfortunately, that's really the only way it's actually going to happen. So,
but even if the cops do arrest all these looters, guess what? The freaking, what is it that foundation that helps these people get out of jail real quickly, post bail for them real quick. So they'll get out. So they'll burn and loot the city and hurt people and hurt business, and these organizations will get those people that get arrested out of jail right quick. So it's just going to be a vicious cycle like we had last summer, because that's what was going on last summer too.
Kamala Harris will put a fund together and say, hey, let's put a fund together to get the bail for all these rioters and people who are destroying property and businesses, and get them out of jail. Yeah, no, they definitely will. And celebrities, of course, Hollywood celebrities. I'm sure we're just moments away, any second now. We're going to get another celebrity montage telling us to donate to a rioter relief fund so that they can break all these people out for the Duante riots. And then the upcoming Chauvin riots. It's oddly timed, by the way. It's almost like these things were kind of planned out in succession, as if we're experiencing a series, a flight, if you will, where you normally taste various types of wines in order. In this particular case, we get to experience variants of riots and protests. It's really a great phenomenon of modern life in America.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle that we have going on here. It really is. And it's just sad I feel sad for the people of Minneapolis, but then again, this is kind of what they wanted. This is what they want. They want people to feel bad for them.
Yeah, no. Dari says a third of the cops have quit. Jeez, yes. Oh, tell me what happens to a society when all the police stop wanting to come in and do their jobs. How does that turn out? I think we all know. Let's go over to Stereo. I had heard some comments come in here. We got our favorite of the Spence.
I know you're not going to agree with me on this one, you two. But I do believe many of those people at that Capitol January 6th were not your average middle-aged Republican. When's the last time you saw an average middle-aged fat-ass Republican scaling a fucking wall? Okay? Is that not a young Antifa fucking thing to do? I think so. Unless you got a picture of fucking Lindsey Graham scaling a fucking wall. Show it to me if you got it.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't be too far off if you came to the conclusion that, there was it was a different crowd than your standard Republicans. I'll say that for sure. But I think what happened at the Capitol protest was a lot of different sects of people who are a little bit more politically active, like, I don't want to say the Proud Boys, but I'm just saying groups of younger oriented people who are more inclined to take action were present. And they've been waiting for a long time to do something. But hey, we already know there was leftist infiltrators there as well. So you are not wrong, sir.
Yeah, I will agree with you that the people that stormed the Capitol definitely were not your typical regular Republicans that just want to have not do this kind of crap. There was definitely some infiltration, a lot of shady stuff going on.
Indeed, and I think we're going to wrap it up right there, Delaney, because we hit 2 hours, and my bladder is about to explode. I don't want to go to the hospital for that. So,
yeah, I don't want to have to meet you at the hospital either, Jeremy.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't want to get COVID or whatever they got in there at this point. If you guys enjoyed the stream, you know where to find us. Tuesdays and Saturdays right here, youtube.com/weeklynarrative. Or if you're on the stereo side of things, subscribe or follow or whatever it is that you do on the stereo app, because we're new to this stereo app, and I don't even know exactly what you do with that thing. So follow us there. Find us here again every Tuesday, Saturday, 7 p.m. PST. Thanks, you guys, for joining. I hope you enjoyed this one. I had fun. We got a lot of great conversation from the stereo people, and that's exactly why we're here, to have conversation. Did you have fun, Delaney?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I always have fun, Jeremy. You know me.
But you're getting
always enjoy talking to you.
You're getting simped for in chat too, so that's always nice too, right?
Oh, I know. Yeah, these guys in chat are definitely simping for me, but it's fine. Like, I appreciate the love always.
All right, guys. Thanks for dropping by. We'll see you on Saturday. Have a great week.
Bye-bye now.